Hey folks, welcome back. So I don't know how many times you folks have been caught in this situation. You're in the middle of a game, you're clearing rooms full of terrorists, shooting your favorite auto, your favorite modes of either semi, double taps, or a full auto, you're, and then you're doing pretty well. You come into the next room, you kick down the door, and then you pull the trigger again, and you hear this noise. And it's a dead trigger, right? So you instantly, with your cat-like reflexes, from your weekend warrior days of, Call of Duty or whatever, you instantly know to rack the bolt back, throw out the magazine, and grab a new one, and then continue going down and taking care of business. But later at the end of the game, here's what you realize. You realize that the magazine still had rounds in it. And you kind of wonder, oh, well, why is that? Well, that's because, this magazine you thought was out of CO2 is very inefficient. You just put in a new CO2 cartridge not too long ago, and it didn't even go through the full 30 rounds, which is kind of surprising. So today we're going to try to take a look at why that is and if there's anything we can do to help fix it. Because I'm starting to have some issues with these magazines now. These are the SRC CO2 mags, and I used to be able to get about 90 to 100 rounds out of these magazines, depending on how fast I shoot. Obviously if I shoot in full auto or bursts, I'm going to get a little bit more or less than if I do semi only. But definitely, 30 rounds is not a lot out of these. You should be able to expect at least 60 at least, if not 90. So of course I had to end up buying a new one because there's a lot of leakages. But I tried fixing it, and we're going to delve into it today and see if there's anything we can do about this right now. So here you'll see the magazine once it's taken out of its housing unit right here. You'll notice that it's held together by these couple of these pins that are here and here. 2 pins actually. I've already punched them out right here, but the easy way to do is you just grab a punch right here. I don't really know what size this is actually. But this works perfectly. Oh, here you go. So if you catch that size on tape, it says 1/16 pin punch, and that works pretty well for this. Anyway, you kind of put it on the duct tape roll, you knock it out, both of them sides, and you should be able to pull this tube out. Now, once you pull it out, you can finally take a look what's inside, and this is where the contact points are. I'm not sure why this magazine leaks so much. A couple tips that I find helpful to help the efficiency is that you want to keep this part right here really clean. You'll notice that the threads here will get really dirty. I don't know where that's coming from, whether it's like carbon fouling or something, I don't know, or maybe from the metal. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of black grime that accumulates here. And what happens is that when you put in a new CO2 cartridge in this container here, it will take some time. It will be kind of resistant actually, and so you can't quickly screw it in like that. And so the longer it takes for you to tighten it, the more gas escapes. So that's why that's one tip. Make sure you keep this part clean, and also the internal part, the matching threads in here clean as well too. The other thing I've noticed that these pins though are that holds the cylinder in place does get kind of loose and wobbly, and sometimes when it wobbles from side to side, you'll notice that the gas leaks a little bit. So to do so, just make sure that the pins are inserted tightly and not pushing out. I'm not sure if that's necessarily just a manufacturer defect or not with these magazines. I bought another one right here, and this is a brand new magazine right here. You'll see there's no wear and tear or everything like that on it. And in this case, it's the same thing. Pins are in local places, but this one doesn't leak as much. It's very efficient. This one actually can shoot up to the full 90 rounds if you put in a new cartridge, whereas with this one right here, I had some issues with it, and so I think it's a couple of different things. I think it's the pins were getting loose, and the dirt that was accumulating here that's making it harder to close quickly. And the last thing is that this is kind of my part. I was kind of dumb. I wasn't as familiar with CO2 guns when I first got this. But what happened was, and this was actually kind of a dangerous thing. I'm glad I had safety goggles on. But so I started shooting this gun, and it stopped firing all of a sudden. So I assumed that it was out of gas because I was shooting quite a bit. And so what happens, I kind of took it out, and I started taking a screwdriver and unscrewing this bottom part. Turns out it was still full of gas, and it actually almost exploded. I mean, the pipe didn't explode here, but it just shot straight out like that. Good thing it was pointed to the ground, and it was, again, the safety goggles were in place. But what happened was that when that happened, the little rubber seal in there like blew right out, and I don't know if that caused damage to it or not, because occasionally now I still have some issues with that seal. I try to put it back in there into place and put it where it should be. I don't think there were any cracks in there from what I can tell, but that might be an explanation for why there should be some leakage in here. But those are some of the basic tips I want to recommend out there, and definitely just a safety from a safety standpoint. So if your folks who are not completely sure if it's out of gas or not, I would highly recommend before you unscrew the bottom part, to make sure you press on the this valve right here. If it's an easy no, there's no resistance to it or not, then you know it's empty and it's safe to unscrew. Whereas this one right here still has a full CO2 cartridge inside, and so it's not as there's definitely resistance. And if you press hard enough, gas will spew out on the top. Basic stuff, I know. I'm sure most of you folks are aware already, but you know, just in case you aren't, like I was being stupid and I found out the hard way. But I like to share with you folks that way. The other thing is, again, I've already mentioned in my other videos, is in terms of, that's just from the gas standpoint. Hopefully, if I tighten the screw a little bit and clean that part a little bit up, maybe the contact seal will be better. And I'll try to see if we can get a gas efficiency that is similar to a brand new magazine replacement right here. Good news though is that they do sell these magazine replacements. You just have to request it specifically from wherever you buy your gun from, and they have to order straight from the manufacturer. But they do sell them as available as spare parts, so that's a good thing in case for some reason it breaks and you have no way of knowing how to fix it. So I'm just gonna put this tube back into place. And basically line them up and then put the pins back into place. The pins are actually kind of interesting because they it's not interesting, but it's unique in the sense that one side of the pin has like the boy, I can't get that in focus, but one side of the pin has like the little rough edge and the other side is smooth, so you want to put it on the smooth side to go in like that, and then the rough edge stays on the outside. Both pins are the same, but one pin will go in one way and the other pin will go in that other way. I don't think we would have to do it. It's just the way that the manufacturer initially had it in there. So let's put it back together. Oh wait, let me clean it up real quick and then we'll put it back together. Now one of the best ways, I just clean the inner tubes, the rubber seal or the O-ring inside. But one of the best ways, you just want to line it up and hold it to the like a light or something like that, and you should be able to see a smooth, clear hole through that, and that's when you know it's lined up appropriately. So see, you can see it right straight through on that one. I already put one in this way, and so the other one will go in the opposite way, which is be back in here. And you can slide it in right there. Push it in, and then of course once it meets, you can push it in a little bit like that. But after the rough part meets the edge, you kind of have to take the pin and hammer it in. I actually don't have a hammer, unfortunately, so I have to use this this metal box cutter here. But basically, that's how you assemble it. Kind of gently tap it in like so. Okay. So remember, we're hammering it in right now, so I'm hammering on the side that has the rough edges. When you are taking it out, you would go the opposite way and hammer it from the side that has the smooth edges, so it knocks it out. Okay. I know this is probably pretty basic information for most of you folks, but in case you're not, or if you're just interested, I just like to show the details here. All right. So hopefully a little more. Let's see here. I think that did it. So it seems pretty sturdy again. So let's test it out. I'm down to my last like CO2 cartridge right here. All right, so this is the last one I have right here. I have to buy more, uh, but let's see if we can put this in, and let's see if we can fill it appropriately. Hopefully, if all goes well, there should be we've already cleaned the rings down here. We tighten it again, and we've cleaned the inner rings a little bit. So hopefully it will seal nice and tightly right here for us. So here we go. Let's, first thing is, we screw it in this way, just until it's like slightly tight. And then the rest we have to use a screwdriver. So as soon as it pierces it, you'll start hearing the hiss. And the hiss, the longer that hiss is for, the more gas you waste. So let's hopefully everything's been adjusted appropriately. And let's just listen. Still leaking, see? It's tight enough, but you still hear it leaking. Let me try to... Okay. So that helps a little bit. That wasn't too bad. I've seen it before where it continues spraying. Oh, see, still leaking in here on me. So again, these magazines, I'm still having some issues with them, but I think doing some of the things that we just talked about might help a little bit. But in the end, I think it could just be some of the inherent issues of the magazine. And you'll notice that if you kind of slightly push it in one way, it'll leak more. So you push it this way, you'll hear some leakage. See? Push it back, no leakage. So it's hard to really say what's causing it. I have a feeling it has something to do with the design or the way the magazine's designed. So, but that's the best we can do for now. So good thing they sell extras. This one doesn't seem to be having issues, but this one does. So that's just the way it is, unfortunately, folks. So put this back. See? What a waste of a CO2 cartridge. Let me see if we can try to... So pretty much at this point, I've realized that the leak is caused from a couple things. It's caused from the CO2, the O-ring seal, and there's just been damage, and I can't replace that. The other thing is that every time I put it in a magazine like this, the housing actually causes the tube to bend a little bit to the side, and with a bad O-ring, it's causing it to keep on leaking. So there's not a whole lot I can do in this situation right now, unfortunately. So hopefully, folks, that's been a good overview of the CO2 SRC magazines, a little bit about how they look like on the insides, what are some of the problems we're getting with them, and what are some of the things that we can try to do to fix it. But overall, that is a problem with the O-ring. That might have been my issue when I broke it, but that's something that's happening here. Fortunately, magazines are available. They're about 60, 70 bucks a pop, but they are out there, so good luck. But anyway, let me know if you folks like the content. Give us a thumbs up, and as always, subscribe if you can to help us out here a bit. And then see you folks next time.